Everything's being slow. New Year's is a harmless annual institution of no particular use to anybody save as a scapegoat for promiscuous drunks and friendly calls and humbug resolutions, and we wish you to enjoy it with the looseness suited to the greatness of that occasion. Mark Twain, January 1st, 1863. That went pretty good.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where we traditionally celebrate the final week of December by taking a good long look around the kitchen and saying, well, this alcohol ain't going to drink itself. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to 2025's final edition of the Blast Radio. So good to have you with us tonight. We hope you and yours had an edifying and convivial Christmas. And to the England cricket team, congratulations, boys, on winning the Boxing Day test at the MCG and thus claiming your first outright victory in an Ashes match on Australian soil since dinosaurs walked the earth, or at least it seems like it was about that long. Now, is it highly regrettable that you chaps only started winning games after you had suffered 3 vicious, merciless ass kickings at the hands of those dirty kangaroo humping convicts in the first 3 matches and the series was thus already decided? Well, as a matter of fact, yes, it very much is. But that is not important now, because if you're an England fan who spent untold thousands of pounds flying down to the arse end of the world to go and support your team, then by God, you will take what you can get. Even if it entails a near-fatal case of heat stroke, the worst sunburn your pasty English self ever suffered, and 6 weeks spent fending off constant attacks by insects the size of small birds. Which is to say, if nothing else, your holiday in Australia will have led to conclude, yeah, I can totally see why we send our criminals down here as punishment. Meanwhile, back here in the civilized world, where Christmas is in the middle of winter and not the middle of goddamn summer, and the correct stars appear in the sky, in the proud tradition of last week's highly successful and much beloved countdown of the 100 worst people in the history of Christmas, we now present for your consideration, wait for it, it's going to blow your mind, it's a very drastic thematic departure, the 100 worst people in the history of New Year's. So without any further ado, let's light this candle and drop this ball and all that other good stuff that you do. Number 100, 1582. Several European countries wake up on January 1st, still unsure which calendar they are supposed to be using. The Gregorian reform is now technically in effect, but it remains culturally optional, much like taking off your bikini top at a nude beach. Some people celebrate New Year's twice, others not at all. Time becomes more of a suggestion. History begins the year with a heavy dose of clerical shrugging. Number 99, 153 BC. The Roman Republic moves the start of the consular year to January 1st. This decision is made primarily for administrative convenience, which is, of course, how nearly all sacred traditions tend to begin. Politics officially hijacks the calendar. Saturnalia side eyes the memo. Civilization updates its terms of service. Number 98, 45 BC. Julius Caesar debuts the Julian calendar, which he has very modestly named after himself on January 1st. He fixes time itself using mathematics, ego, and absolute inscrutable authority. This works for about 16 centuries, which by Roman standards is something akin to a rounding error. Leap years are introduced. Confusion volunteers for a long-term contract. Number 97, 567 AD. The Council of Tours decides that January 1st is just too darn pagan to be New Year's Day. Europe immediately begins celebrating New Year's on several different dates. Unity is achieved in theory only. Calendars splinter like so many heresies. Everyone argues while also missing deadlines. Number 96, the 1200s AD. Medieval England observes New Year's on March 25th during this period. France observes it on Easter. Italy sort of improvises from year to year. Nobody agrees, but everyone keeps records anyway. This is the origin of international paperwork resentment. Time zones are still waiting in the wings. Number 95, 1691. Scotland officially moves New Year's Day to January 1st. The English calendar wins on points. Hogmanay is invented as an emotional coping mechanism. Revolution making becomes aggressive. Bells ring, regret limbers up. Number 94, 1752. Britain adopts the Gregorian calendar and loses 11 days overnight. September simply skips ahead. People accuse the government of stealing time. This is the most honest complaint that citizens have perhaps ever made. New Year's arrives slightly traumatized. Number 93, 1793. Revolutionary France introduces a new calendar to reboot reality. Weeks are now 10 days long. Months are renamed after the weather. January 1st is canceled entirely. Time is nationalized. Even the future refuses to comply. Number 92, 1844. The Millerites predict the end of the world, miss the date, and then reschedule. New Year's optimism meets apocalyptic overconfidence. The second coming is delayed for clerical reasons. Faith recalibrates. Time survives another audit. Number 91, 1899. Newspapers confidently predict what the year 1900 will bring. Flying cars are expected, and we are still 4 years away from flying airplanes. War is considered obsolete. Humanity congratulates itself in advance. The 20th century reads all of this with a giggle and begins cracking its knuckles. Number 90, 1066. William the Conqueror is crowned King of England on Christmas Day, ensuring heavy doses of New Year's awkwardness. Norman rule begins with pageantry and unresolved resentment. The English nobility politely simmers while refusing to learn French. Everyone pretends this was scheduled. The hangover lasts centuries. Number 89, 1622. Pope Gregory XV declares January 1st as a holy day of obligation. God officially endorses administrative clarity. Catholics are instructed to pray about timekeeping. Protestants roll their eyes on principle. Heaven quietly files the paperwork. Number 888, 1700. Russia adopts the Julian calendar's January 1st as its own new year. Peter the Great drags his empire into modernity by brute force. Beards are taxed. Time is westernized. Everyone pretends it was their idea. Number 87, 1772. The first recorded New Year's Eve fireworks display is staged in London. Explosions are introduced as a timekeeping method. Noise becomes tradition. Sleep files a grievance. This decision echoes forever. Number 86, 1801. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland officially forms on January 1st. A geopolitical merger launches quietly. Nobody is fully satisfied. Several centuries of consequences load in the background. Confetti is implied. Number 85, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation goes into effect on January 1st. Freedom arrives by executive order. History advances decisively. Bureaucracy does one noble thing. The calendar earns a rare moral victory. Number 84, 1892. Ellis Island opens on New Year's Day. America welcomes immigrants with paperwork and with hope. Dreams pass through inspections. Names are misspelled forever. The future queues patiently. Number 83, 1901. Queen Victoria dies shortly after New Year's begins. An era politely excuses itself. The 20th century clears its throat. Black crepe replaces optimism. Nobody notices what is warming up behind the curtain. Number 82, 1912. The Republic of China is proclaimed on January 1st. Dynasties end with a press release. Modernity shows up early. Chaos RSVPs. Maybe. History sets the table aggressively. Number 81, 1929. The Soviet Union unveils its first 5-year plan on New Year's Day. Time itself is conscripted. Reality is expected to cooperate, but it does not. The clock punches in anyway. Number 80, 1909. Manchester United plays its first match at Old Trafford on January 1st. It opens as a symbol of modern sport. Within decades, it becomes a global religion, but with better chance. The stadium is christened by optimism. The referee immediately disappoints everyone. Number 79, 1919. Babe Ruth is sold to the New York Yankees on January the 5th, retroactively ruining New Year's for Bostonians. A curse is born through bookkeeping. Hope is exchanged for cash. The 20th century grins maliciously. Sports regret enters mass production. Number 78, 1927. The first transatlantic telephone call is placed on January the 7th. The future arrives crackly and overpriced. Small talk achieves global reach. Distance officially loses. Silence sues for defamation. Number 77, 1936. The first NFL championship game is played in January. Football discovers ritualized winter misery. Fans freeze willingly. Revenue blossoms. Common sense quietly retires. Number 76, 1947. The first televised New Year's Day college bowl games air nationally. Football becomes a holiday obligation. Families argue over seating. Turkey is replaced by regret. America commits fully and enthusiastically to this new cultural rubric. Number 75, 1950. The first television broadcast of The Lone Ranger occurs near New Year's Day. Radio heroes migrate awkwardly. Masks remain popular, though nobody wears them while driving alone on the freeway. Justice is sponsored. Merchandising sharpens its knives. Number 74, 1954. The first color television broadcast of the Tournament of Roses parade. Flowers achieve technological dominance. Pageantry overwhelms engineering. America watches floats in emotional saturation. Reality loses the beauty contest. Number 73, 1958. The Baltimore Colts win the NFL championship in sudden death overtime on the 28th of December. The nation collectively forgets its New Year's plans. Football invents suspense. Resolution making is postponed indefinitely. History flexes. Number 72, 1960. The Rose Bowl is played between Washington and Wisconsin. Nobody remembers who won, though everybody remembers being there. Tradition triumphs over facts. Memory submits an incomplete report. Number 71, 1920. The first official New Year's Eve ball drop is broadcast to a national radio audience. Time becomes entertainment. Anticipation is monetized. Millions cheer rapturously over a verbal description of a descending sphere. Civilization agrees this is acceptable. Number 70, 1776. General George Washington hoists the Grand Union flag on January 1st. America celebrates a new year by inventing a new aesthetic. Stars are pending. Stripes do all the heavy lifting. Rebellion tests its color palette. Number 69, 1804. Haiti declares its independence on January 1st. A successful slave revolt becomes a nation overnight. Europe clutches its pearls. Liberty shows up uninvited. History pretends not to notice for a while. Number 68, 1818. Mary Shelley publishes her novel Frankenstein in early January. Humanity celebrates the new year by inventing scientific anxiety. The monster is misunderstood. The metaphor is unsubtle. Progress asks for forgiveness, not permission. Number 67, 1863. Abraham Lincoln attends a New Year's reception and spends hours shaking hands. Democracy is performed manually. The president nearly collapses. The Union survives on laudanum and resolve. History is held together with calluses. Number 66, 1890. The U.S. Census declares the American frontier closed. The West officially runs out of elbow room. Manifest Destiny checks its watch. Mythology files a final report. The future begins indoors. Number 65, 1919. The Weimar Constitution takes effect on January the 1st. Germany inaugurates democracy with optimism and with paperwork. Structural flaws are politely ignored. History clears its throat ominously. Everyone smiles for the camera. Number 64, 1935. Monopoly is sold nationwide for the first time during the New Year's season. Capitalism gamifies itself. Families test loyalty. Friendships do not survive. Irony takes the title deed and does not pass go. Number 63, 1942. 26 nations signed the declaration by United Nations on January the 1st. World War II officially becomes global. Allies toast grimly. Hope signs in blue ink. The stakes acquire a logo. Number 62, 1959. Fidel Castro enters Havana on New Year's Day. A revolution completes its victory lap. Beards achieve political relevance. History abruptly changes the channel. Florida real estate appreciates nervously. Number 61, 1960. Cameroon gains its independence on January the 1st. The 20th century welcomes another nation with a handshake and expectations. Optimism arrives freshly pressed. Reality waits nearby with a clipboard. Freedom clocks in for the morning shift. Number 60, 1869. The Brooklyn Bridge begins construction in January. Humanity greets the new year by daring gravity to blink first. Somebody says, trust the math. Everyone else observes from a safe distance. Number 59, 1901. Australia becomes a federation on January the 1st. 6 colonies agree to attempt being one country. The paperwork is optimistic. The spiders, though, remain undefeated. National identity loads slowly, except during the Ashes. Number 58, 1914. The Ford Motor Company announces a revolutionary $5 per day wage in early January. Workers rejoice. Management panics quietly. Capitalism briefly experiments with ethics. The experiment does not last. Number 57, 1927. New Year's Day radio programming spreads nationwide. Silence officially becomes obsolete. Families stop talking, basically forever. Voices from nowhere move in permanently. Static becomes a tradition. Number 56, 1934. Alcatraz officially becomes a federal prison in January. America welcomes the new year by inventing a rock specifically for criminals. Hope is discouraged. Escape is theoretical. Unless your name is Clint Eastwood. Tourism will follow. Number 55, 1946. The United Nations holds its first General Assembly in January. Humanity convenes to discuss peace using microphones. Translation errors occur almost immediately. Optimism is multilingual. Consensus remains aspirational. Number 54, 1951. The first color television broadcasts appear during New Year programming. Reality gains saturation. Nothing important improves. Sports benefit disproportionately. Culture becomes louder. Number 53, 1954. The Tournament of Roses parade is broadcast nationwide in color. America wakes up on January 1st to floats, pageantry, and weaponized cheer, though no one asked for this, but everyone watches anyway. Number 52, 1957. The original Chevy Impala debuts during the New Year season. Style officially outruns practicality. Chrome becomes a lifestyle choice. Fuel economy files a complaint. The open road exhales. Number 51, 1960. The U.S. Supreme Court resumes hearings immediately after New Year's Day. Even justice does not get an extra day off to nurse its hangover. The law wakes up, pours coffee, and keeps pretending it is timeless, but time disagrees. Number 50, 1907. The first New Year's Eve ball drop occurs in Times Square. America decides time should fall dramatically. Crowds cheer. Physics sighs. A tradition is born and immediately becomes impossible to escape. Number 49, 1929. College football bowl games become entrenched as New Year's Day rituals. Higher education discovers pageantry. Student athletes provide free labor. Alumni drink before noon. Everyone agrees this is all very wholesome. Number 48, 1937. The Sugar Bowl cements New Year's football as a national obsession. Academic calendars are sacrificed willingly. Learning is postponed. Mascots assume power. This feels inevitable. Number 47, 1942. The NHL plays hockey on New Year's Day while the world is at war. Ice remains ice. Pucks remain pucks. Escapism files for overtime. Normalcy skates on anyway, at least when it's not waiting in line for poutine at the concession stand. Number 46, 1950. The first televised New Year's Day football games reach America's living rooms. Coaches become yelling furniture. Referees gain immortality. Nobody agrees on the call. Nothing changes after that. Number 45, 1955. Elvis Presley headlines New Year's performances as a cultural earthquake. Parents hear hips moving through the television. Morality clutches its pearls. Social propriety crosses its legs tightly. Teenagers immediately choose sides. Number 44, 1958. The NHL introduces winter holiday scheduling as a rating strategy. Cold meets colder. Teeth are lost festively. Canada nods approvingly while still waiting in line for poutine at the concession stand. Number 43, 1960. The Rose Bowl becomes a full-blown television spectacle. parades, football, sunshine, and denial all unite in a new midwinter American bacchanalia. January pretends it is spring, weather objects only much later. Number 42, 1949. Hollywood releases prestige film timed for New Year's acclaim. Oscar bait learns to swim upstream. Critics sharpen their knives. Audiences pretend to be cultured. Number 41, 1959. The Soviet Union launches a New Year propaganda blitz celebrating its technological dominance. Champagne pops behind the Iron Curtain. Everyone pretends this is permanent. History checks its watch. Number 40, 1919. The Treaty of Versailles looms over the first new year after the First World War. Peace is declared with confidence and bad math. Everyone congratulates themselves. The bill is deferred. Number 39, 1933. Adolf Hitler uses New Year addresses to frame destiny as policy. Rhetoric stretches itself into inevitability. Crowds applaud momentum. History quietly starts packing sandbags. Number 38, 1946. The United Nations opens its first full year with ceremonial optimism. Diplomacy believes it has learned its lessons. Veto power lurks backstage. Hope signs the charter anyway. Number 37, 1951. American television leans hard into New Year's variety specials. Celebrities sing outside their range. Comedy wears a tuxedo. Nobody admits that this is strange. Number 36, 1920. Prohibition greets the new year fully operational. America resolves to stop drinking forever. Bootleggers stretch. Glassware weeps. Number 35, 1954. Sports leagues market New Year's games as moral renewal. Athletes sweat out last year's sins. Fans absolve nothing. Scoreboards remain judgmental. Number 34, 1930. Economic forecasts predict recovery in the new year. Charts are optimistic. Breadlines are less so. Confidence is a renewable resource. Number 33, 1941. Franklin Roosevelt frames New Year's resolve as a national duty. Sacrifice is rebranded as virtue. The language hardens. The country listens with a grumbly stomach. Number 32, 1960. Television news declares the modern decade is going to be modern. The incoming decade. Haircuts comply immediately. Expectations spike. Reality sharpens its knives. Number 31, 1956. A new year arrives with nuclear weapons fully normalized. Fireworks feel redundant. Midnight passes quietly. The apocalypse is now a standing appointment. Number 30, 1914. Europe welcomes the new year convinced that the war is going to be over by spring. Optimism is issued in bulk. Trenches quietly disagree. Calendars prove non-binding. Number 29, 1959. Fidel Castro enters Havana on New Year's Day. Revolution declares victory before the hangover wears off. Hope is nationalized immediately. The receipt is non-refundable. Number 28, 1935. The Hoover Dam begins delivering power as a symbol of modern triumph. Nature is officially subdued. Engineers nod approvingly. Hubris hums at industrial voltage. Number 27, 1942. Rose Bowl officials move the game away from Pasadena out of wartime fear. College football adapts to geopolitics. Tradition blinks. The marching bands regroup. Number 26, 1929. New Year's Eve parties roar in defiance of economic anxiety. Champagne flows in defiance of the Volstead Act. Stock tickers twitch. Denial is carbonated. Number 25, 1950. Television broadcasts New Year's celebrations from coast to coast. Humanity agrees to watch itself celebrate. Performative joy enters syndication. The audience applauds right on cue. Number 24, 1937. Hollywood releases prestige films timed for the new year. Awards are pre-negotiated. Art is carefully calibrated. Magic wears a press kit. Number 23, 1918. The world welcomes a new year while influenza still rages. Public optimism outpaces medical reality. Parades proceed anyway. Germs remain unimpressed. Number 22, 1960. John F. Kennedy frames the new year as generational renewal. Youth becomes policy. Idealism gets a haircut. The future clears its throat. Number 21, 1938. Radio listeners ring in the new year, trusting the voices that they hear. Authority sounds friendly. Certainty is broadcast each night. The microphone learns that it can lie. Number 20, 1901. Queen Victoria's death just after the new year ends the Victorian era on a technicality. An entire age overstays its welcome by just a few hours. Mourning becomes mandatory. Modernity waits impatiently outside. Number 19, 1958, Bobby Fischer wins the U.S. Chess Championship over New Year's. A teenager announces himself as Destiny. Genius arrives early. Stability departs immediately. Number 18, 1934, the NCAA quietly begins formalizing bowl games as New Year's institutions. College football discovers pageantry as policy. Tradition hardens. Mediocrity receives matching jackets. Number 17, 1917, Vladimir Lenin spends New Year's in revolutionary exile, still convinced that history owes him momentum. Ideology sharpens its knives. Patience runs out. The calendar stops being neutral. Number 16, 1948, the first televised New Year's Eve celebration reaches living rooms nationwide. Time becomes a shared performance. Midnight is now a broadcast event. Privacy officially loses the argument. Number 15, 1960, the U.S. Census frames the new year as proof of unstoppable growth. Numbers swell confidently. Infrastructure sweats nervously. Optimism is printed in bold. Number 14, 1939, European leaders welcome the new year, issuing statements of resolve. Words do all the work that they can. Armies continue stretching. Reality refuses subtitles. Number 13, 1957, the Soviet Union enters the new year with Sputnik still overhead, and so, for that matter, does the United States. The sky now participates in geopolitics. Confidence shifts orbital lanes. Gravity becomes ideological. Number 12, 1927, Hollywood stars ring in the new year as silent film collapses beneath their feet. Careers freeze in mid-toast. Dialogue arrives uninvited. Charisma must suddenly speak, often in a squeaky, rather unpleasant voice. Number 11, 1945, the world greets its first new year of peace with exhausted relief and unanswered questions. Victory tastes thin. The future refuses to clarify itself. History exhales and keeps watching. Number 10, 1919, the world rings in the new year believing the Great War has taught it a valuable lesson. Leaders speak solemnly of sacrifice and remembrance and never doing this again. Maps are redrawn with confident hands and zero humility. This is the moment humanity mistakes trauma for wisdom. Peace is declared. Lessons are assumed to have been learned, and history immediately begins sharpening a sequel. The calendar flips. The bill remains unpaid. Number 9, 1959. Times Square hosts a New Year's Eve celebration fully optimized for television spectacle. Crowds cheer right on cue. Confetti achieves air superiority. Joy is no longer spontaneous. It is scheduled, rehearsed, and lit from 3 different angles. This is when celebration stops being something you do and becomes something you perform for strangers. Midnight hits. Authenticity quietly exits through a service door. Number 8, 1933. Germany enters the new year with Adolf Hitler newly appointed chancellor. Promises are made about renewal, order, and destiny. Crowds mistake momentum for meaning. The language of inevitability does most of the heavy lifting. This is the moment history gives power to a man because he sounds so very certain. Confidence wins the election. The cost is deferred. Number 7, 1960. The decade opens with unshakable faith in technology, youth, and progress. The future is marketed as clean, efficient, and obedient. Plastic, rockets, and optimism all share a cocktail. Nobody asks about the consequences. This New Year's isn't naive, it is arrogant. Modernity doesn't knock, and it assumes consent. Number 6, 1942. The world welcomes the new year in the middle of a global war. Governments issue messages of hope calibrated to morale spreadsheets. Families toast absent chairs. Optimism becomes an act of defiance. This is not celebration, it is endurance dressed up as tradition. Midnight passes, and the war does not notice. Number 5, 1929. New Year's Eve parties explode across America as the decade peaks. Champagne flows and bands swing. Confidence roars loudly enough to drown out the sound of the floor slowly giving way. Within months, the whole illusion collapses. This is history's most expensive toast. Denial, clinking glasses with destiny. Number 4, 1914. Europe enters the new year convinced that the war is going to be a short war. Politicians promise resolution. Generals promise glory. Calendars promise closure. They cannot deliver. This is optimism weaponized against reality. The is misread. The trenches. Anyway, midnight strikes. The clock does not reset. Number 2, 31 December, every single year. The ritual itself. Resolutions declared by people who will not keep them, cheered by people who do not believe them. Gymnasiums fill, hope spikes, reality sets a reminder. This is the annual ceremony where humanity insists that tomorrow will fix what the last 12 months of bad impulse control did not. The calendar flips, and we remain ourselves. And finally, number 1, the 1st of January, 1 AD. Christian civilization begins counting time from a chosen point, and it never looks back. Meanwhile, the Jews and the Asians scoff at the idea of resetting the calendar, and they go on doing things as they have always done. The Arabs decide they don't want to reset time for at least another 600 years, and they set their snooze alarm accordingly. History is framed, centered, and standardized. Everything before becomes before. Everything after becomes inevitable. This is the most audacious act of narrative control that's ever been attempted. Time itself is colonized, and every new year since then is just us checking the math and hoping it works. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. We're done. We have dispensed with the last and final opening monologue of 2025. We hope you found it every bit as titillating as we did. And with that, I now convey you into the capable custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, a man you will never catch wearing those funny glasses shaped like numbers on New Year's Eve, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius, where this week I'm going to lose my mind about the ability of using Adobe to unredact federal documents and whether or not I think that's a 4D chess move played by somebody in the annals of power. I'm probably going to spurg out about some Fallout 4 later, and I've got a couple of videos on history's biggest coincidences. And if we run into a lull in the conversation, I'm going to refer to that, and we'll see what comes out of all this. So, without further ado, without further gilding the lily, how's your week, Cap? Right
Pretty
at the end
outstanding.
of that, right at the end of that, on your last three, your camera froze up, and when it came back, it was using potato footage. It might be okay in StreamYard later. You might need to download it out of StreamYard.
Yeah, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. We'll just deal with whatever it gives me.
Okay, all right. So where do you want to start?
We can start wherever you want. I like that history's coincidences thing, but I just want to shout out to the audience the fact that I received this lovely book for Christmas, Smithsonian Battles Map by Map. So if you've got a favorite battle you want to talk about, if we reach some sort of natural lull in the proceedings tonight, shout out your favorite battle. We'll look it up in the book and we'll talk about it because there's a pretty good chance it's in here. So just wanted to put that out there.
That's super cool. That's like infinite bathroom reading. You can even read those over and over again.
And one of my favorite things about it is you've got naval battles in here and land battles as well. So you've got your Trafalgar and your Jutland alongside, your Gettysburg and your Austerlitz and all that good stuff.
Right.
And we do rather like talking about battles on this program. So
yeah, I like getting into the nitty gritty of them sometimes. I like looking at the tactics, and it's easy to armchair quarterback that kind of stuff when you're looking back at the information available to us versus the information available to, like, say, Stonewall Jackson on the day of.
And that's why physical books like this are valuable in a way that no other resource can be, because the maps give you a level of understanding that you can't ever get just by reading the order of battle in text form from a Wikipedia page or wherever the hell you're reading it from. Show me the actual troop movements. Show me who was commanding, how many guys, how many infantry, how many cavalry, how many artillery pieces he had. Show me what that unit did show me what every single unit did, and then I will understand better by having read the book than I could from reading an internet article.
Right. And also that book doesn't change at midnight.
That is correct as well.
They can't update your book. So,
although they would like to.
We've got a couple of things going on in the news today in the world. Apparently Americans are now pirates. We take shipping. Apparently. You know that?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I mean, that's an
I
old
like-
tradition.
I, you know what I want to see? I want to see a letter of marque and reprisal in the 21st century. That would make me so very happy.
Talk about redefining those Somali pirates, bro. How do
And it
you
should be-
apply?
And it should be written on parchment with a fucking quill. God damn it.
I'm right. Have a fucking black seal across it.
Yeah, what kind of savages do we look like? We don't do this shit by email.
Damn right. They just have to show up in person, present their letter of marque and
Yeah.
their booty.
Unroll that bad boy. It's got the wax seals hanging off of it. Whole 9 yards, dude.
Big ribbon.
Hell
Oh,
yes. Hell yes. I want all that stuff.
And it should be open to like the world. Like any nation or individual who wishes to sign up.
Yes.
You have to provide your own warship, all of your own war material, and all of your own planning. But you have to have a valid plan. And
To whom it may concern, anybody who wants to join in on the pillaging.
I'm not a huge fan of pillaging. I'll be honest. Not pillaging, I think, was one of the better movements in modern warfare. You know, I know it happens. It still happens, but it's frowned upon more than it once was. Once that's how soldiers were made.
And that's one of the reasons why it is always a good thing when the most powerful navy on earth is also the guarantor of international maritime law and free passage on the high seas, because you get into a lot of pretty awful depredations when you don't have a country like that's willing to do that job. Obviously, it used to be the Royal Navy. Now it is us. We've both done it pretty damn well because generally speaking, I mean, setting aside times of global warfare, we've pretty much had something resembling free and open commerce on the high seas for the last couple of 100 years, and that's a good thing. We could not have achieved the same levels of civilization and technology that we have achieved if that had not been the case.
Also, the Spanish Main would not be a pleasure cruise.
That is correct as well. You can say that again.
Right. I mean, right now, the only boats sailing that particular loop are a bunch of cruise ships with a bunch of really upset fatiguers on it. That blows my mind. The fact that the existence of America and its philosophy of don't touch our boats completely eradicated an entire pirate kingdom. That's amazing.
Oh yes, it sure did. And a pirate kingdom that probably had the world's most powerful navy in the first decade of the 18th century, or the 19th century. I mean, their navy was more powerful than ours. I mean, we had to build more of a navy than we had in order to go and kick their ass, which of course we did.
2 pirate kingdoms. there was the Spanish Main variety, which largely got took out by the Royal Navy, and then you had that whole
the Barbary Kingdom,
shit. That was really when it became solidified that you do not touch our boats.
Yes, and you need to back up that talk with stern and decisive action. Otherwise, the talk doesn't mean anything. And we've been backing up that talk with stern and decisive action ever since we've had the boats to do the talking with, and look at where it has gotten us, you know.
Well, it's always funny to me because there's all kinds of like waffling and saber rattling and stuff that goes on with politics and any type of land dispute. But when it's on the ocean and the Navy's involved, it's usually suddenly very, very critical and solved immediately. They touched our boats, and that's all the excuse that's necessary. The Navy will wipe out an entire fucking country's warships, all of them. We'll just be
absolutely
like, blam.
And the law on the high seas is a decidedly different thing, both in conception and in practice, than it is anywhere on land. And that's something that I think is also a credit to humanity, is that we have arrived at and managed to maintain pretty consistently what the law of the high seas actually is. And that is another thing that has it has enabled our development and our expansion as a species to an extent that we might not have achieved had that agreement never been arrived at. And obviously, that agreement tends to go away during times of widespread naval conflict. But for the most part, setting aside those few brief several year long periods of global war that we have undergone from time to time over the centuries that we've and the law of the high sea hasn't really changed all that much. It mostly is the same thing it was a couple of hundred years ago, and
Kind of
that's
thought
benefited us.
you said something about the new battleships, right?
Right.
We were chatting about the new battleships, and I was like, okay, so what would a new battleship look like? Now, years ago, I was involved in like an internet thing where there was a bunch of there was a think tank built around the idea of designing quote unquote a modern battleship platform that would be more useful in actual off what we refer to as off continent warfare than your classic big gun platform. And what we came up with was a mixed bag. Basically, you take some of the abilities of a cruiser and you put it in the battleship. You take some of the abilities of your destroyer types and put it in the battleship. And then you still have the dedicated cruisers that can be more dedicated to the task at hand, and dedicated to destroyers that can also be more dedicated to the task at hand, leaving your overwatch, your drone controls, your all of your missile type tech and controls, all of that would be on a single command and control structure, which is typically an aircraft carrier, right?
Yes.
But this would alleviate the crew from the aircraft carrier from having to maintain full battlefield control. The battleship would take on controls for the Navy group, whereas the aircraft carrier would take on controls for any land and air support type stuff, right? And this would divide the amount of work needed to do by any particular task force, although it would complicate communications a bit.
Right. And I haven't looked in the last couple days, so I don't know if they have yet published a precise set of specifications on what they're calling the Trump class battleship. But I tend to kind
Only
of
thing
stick
I
with,
can
with
tell you,
with my initial assessment that we were talking. Sorry, go ahead.
the only thing I can tell you, and the only reason I can tell you this is because it's just the way ships are built. There's something called a Panamax, right?
Yeah.
Panamax is the largest vessel that can pass through the Panama Canal, and
Yep.
most of your
Yeah.
fuel tankers and whatnot are Panamax length and width. And I see no reason why this wouldn't be done that way, which would allow these platforms to basically just time warp their way to the Pacific and the Atlantic, as far as sailing there goes.
I
But what if, and stick with me on this one, what if
Okay.
they're going to build one or two of these battleships as platforms, and then the rest of the battleships are actually stealth oil tankers?
It would make more sense than it seems to make at face value.
Right. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically speaking, if the US was willing to do the most nefarious things imaginable to its own citizens, what how far away from piracy are we on the world stage to acquire oil, right? If we are at war with a country, or apparently
Well,
even
and
if
but
not,
doesn't that just always go back to the question of, do we actually need anybody else's oil when we are fully exploiting our own supply that exists in our own territory? And that's been a big source of the bifurcated disagreement on what America's geopolitical approach should be over the course of the last decade or more. And I think you and I tend to agree on what the correct answer is. If you exploit your own supply, you don't really need to worry about anybody else's. You don't need to worry about OPEC, rigging the market and spiking prices and any of that bullshit. You don't need to go fight foreign wars in god awful deserty places, and you don't need to mess with any of that stuff.
but we do. And the
But we
reason
do.
we do, but well, the reason we do, we have to, is because our banking system is set up in such a way as to tax the rest of the world for using our money to purchase oil for through OPEC. And if we don't maintain that level of hegemony on the monetary structure of the world, you don't want to see what type of third world nastiness would take place in the US, because right now we are ostensibly a superpower because we got nukes, but really we're an economic superpower because we've entered what some people refer to as post, what is it, post capitalist clarity or some shit like that. I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah, and do you want to hear a sort of an alternate history question that I've been toying with in my mind recently?
Hit me, bro. You know me.
Let me hit you with this. As we know, the borders and the boundaries of the countries that currently exist in the Middle East were drawn up by the British and the French in the aftermath of the First World War without really much of a mind to anything except let's draw something here and let's draw some, it was European power compromising with one another rather than paying any particular mind to actual political exigencies that might exist on the ground in the area in the area that they were of the globe that they were carving up amongst themselves. The point being, the question is, how much different might that exercise have looked if it was after the discovery of oil and not 25 or 30 years before it?
Hmm.
See?
I bet you Israel would be bigger.
You raise an excellent point, and I think you're probably right. Yep.
I mean, that whole Levant region looking real good.
Because it never occurred to any of the great powers when they were naming those countries and drawing up their borders and installing governments and all that stuff that any of these countries in that part of the world might have any resources that anybody could ever want. And then by the time you get into the 1950s, everybody wants it really bad, and now we know that's where all the oil is, and let's go get it. And much of the last 75 years of world history has been based on how imperfectly those borders fit in with the reality that we later discovered about the resource potential of that region. And then I think it's a fascinating thing to consider.
You know, our maps often have their borders on mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people would look at it and go, "Oh, well, it's because it's difficult to cross the mountains, and that's where the border is." And in reality, different nation, or if it's impossible to wage a war with your neighbor, you can't wage war for resources, and so the lines end up on the mountain because we can't cross it, right? But really, it's basically a divisor of resources from one nation to another. And the easiest place to place that would be at the peaks of the mountains. Because, like I said before, it would be prohibitively expensive to fight that war. And so there's no point doing it. But ultimately, it's for resource distribution, mostly gold, because when the lines were drawn up, gold was largely sourced from mountains. So yeah, you get half a
Yeah.
mountain and I get half a mountain and we split it.
And most of your wars down through human history are either completely or tangentially involved with a fight for resources. And the wars that we have seen over oil in the last 60 or 70 years aren't really any different from the previous wars that were over resources. It's just a different resource that we're fighting over now. And it's really like I said, it's a conflict that we don't really necessarily need to have any involvement in, because we have a really handsome domestic oil supply of our own that we're still not fully exploiting. And if we did exploit it, I am the biggest isolationist in the world if we are exploiting our oil supply for all it is worth. I will tell you that right now.
Well, I kind of have a slightly different opinion on that. I am a minimalist when it comes to exploiting our own oil reserves, right? like are the ones that are in situ natural. I'm not talking about the strategic reserves and none of that. I'm talking about like Yosemite and Alaska and those places.
Yeah.
Uh,
ANWR mostly. That's the biggest thing is northern Alaska.
I am all for the uh, extra military activity to bend the will of the entire world. I have no problem with that whatsoever to maintain some level of supremacy in the oil market, come what may. And that is a dark, dark, dark path to go down. But if you've ever read The Art of War, you know that these things must take place, and you have a choice between using a foreign power's energy and using your own. You use the foreign powers as long and as often as possible, even if it is a little more expensive to acquire and a little bit more difficult. It's still strategically long term the best plan.
Right. And sure, it might be a dark road to go down, but you cannot avoid going down it if you want to act in a responsible fashion, because otherwise we are hedging every single one of our geopolitical bets on the fact that our fiat currency is the world's reserve default currency, and we're just assuming that it's always going to remain that way forever without hedging it against anything that actually exists and actually has intrinsic value, which a little piece of green paper does not. So dark path, sure, but you have to go down it, or else you're being a totally irresponsible madman.
True. And that's the weird part is like from certain political perspectives, that entire conversation is purely verboten in public and only may be spoken behind closed doors. And
Yeah.
it's like the idea of manifest destiny, you know. The only reason that ended is because the federal government was like, "Hey, by the way, we're not invading any more tribes or any more territories." Because if they hadn't have pulled the switch on that, Mexico and Western Canada would both be American.
Or the alternative to that is, and you know what I'm about to bring up. The alternative to that is that Mexico would be Confederate and much of Central America, because that was their ultimate aim.
Well, South America has something of a bulwark against. Wait, I think we lost you. Say something.
Say something.
Okay, well, you're still there. You're just out of sync. South America has a little bit of a bulwark against an American invasion. Largely, the American invasion was by land. That entire Sooner and westward expansion concept had it turned the worm and moved south, and they took Mexico as part of it as well, and maybe even north, and took, because I mean Alaska is definitely on that list, and it is kind of weird. You got to drive through another nation to get to a state, but whatever.
Yeah, and one of the most fascinating things about South America is that you've still got little enclaves down there in Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, what have you, where we've talked about the German enclaves before, but there are also Confederate enclaves down there where the Confederates sent, they couldn't really send diplomatic missions in the official sense, but they sent people down there to try and get little colonies going, get little footholds of population, with the ultimate aim to we're gonna turn the entire southern part of the Americas into an extension of the Confederacy, and the descendants of those people still live down there, and some of them still speak Southern accented English. And how fascinating is that?
There's a slew of Patties, O'Grady's, McCoys, and stuff running around with Hispanic boots on, bro. Like
Yep.
it would surprise you. The McCoy family reunion is one of the most eclectic locations you could ever go to, and it only happens every like 4 or 5 years or so. And largely it's by invitation. So
Do they
if you
always hold it in the same place?
no, it's because it's such a huge family, it's generally done at like whatever venue is large enough to deal with the overflow. Because
Yeah, I bet that's quite a scene to behold.
it is wild, bro. Because there are parts of the family that are completely distinct from other parts of the family for various American historical regions, like Confederados running to South America, uh,
Yeah.
slaves that escaped and took on the name of the people that helped them escape, stuff
And
like
that's
that.
that's what they're called, Confederados. The name was in my head, but it was escaping me.
And these people are also invited to the barbecue. So there's a wild breadth of diversity at these things. It is crazy.
Yeah,
And not
I'm
quite
gonna
as
look.
violent as you might think.
I'm gonna look that up right here, quick, so we can read a little bit about it.
Um, it's let's look into the let's talk about the redaction fiasco. 40 chess,
Okay.
bro. I don't think you're seeing what you think you're seeing. What it appears to me, and I've heard a lot of different interpretations
Oh,
on
I was just making
how.
a little pedantic joke. That wasn't really any value
Sure,
judgment.
sure. On how this could happen. What appears in my mind, in my autism, to have occurred is when the files were initially made, the pertinent legal redactions took place, right? So
Right.
the underage, the victims, their information was scrubbed from it utilizing the proper redaction method. And then before the release of these files, someone was tasked with going in and redact, or possibly an AI was tasked with going in and redacting things from specific people that are not covered by the legal redactions that took place. And this individual, I don't think made a mistake, but made a conscious decision to utilize a highlighter in black rather than the redaction tool in the file, and this allowed people to unredact the file by using the same mechanism that was used to redact it and undoing it.
Yes. And we've seen things like that before where a non-standard, not necessarily authorized means of redaction was used by a redactor who wanted other people to be able to creatively unredact it. So and yeah, there's a significantly non-zero chance that's what happened here.
So here's what my predictive brain wants to say. The reason you do this is you're placating something or someone in the moment by showing them the redacted files and then releasing the redacted files in a way that allows them to be easily unredacted, right? And that allows you to wash your hands of the responsibility of, wait, hey, I released, I redacted everything you wanted me to, and I released the files like they wanted me to. It's not my fault that your government is inept, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
all
and you
you. Also, hold on, this is where I'm getting to the point. Also, this guarantees a huge amount of scrutiny on a given batch of files, and you could probably release 10 more, a million more files tomorrow, and those wouldn't be as scrutinized as these.
and that's an excellent point to bring up because you might be onto something there. And another factor that often comes into play in situations like these is you have transitions between one administration and another administration and one party and another party, and it happens all the time that the previous administration wants this thing redacted in such a way that protects the people that that administration and the party of which they're a member wants to be protected, and the new incoming administration doesn't want that, and perhaps there's the low level guy, the actual redactor guy, who wants to put his thumb on the scale and make it easier for those names and that information to be uncovered, even over the objections of a current or a former administration.
Well, I'm thinking more highbrow, that this was intentionally released in this way so that when they release the other million and a half files or whatever, it will be fully redacted. Everyone will expect it to be properly redacted, and there won't be any questions about any of that stuff except for why it's redacted. And no one will know because it'll be fully redacted, right?
Right. And no matter what is redacted or unredacted or, you know, uncovered by non-government actors who are trying to extract the information from redacted documents, we've talked about this before. If it doesn't say what certain people want it to say, they will still scream non-disclosure, and they will scream conspiracy, and they will scream this is a fake because it doesn't say the thing I want it to say. So there must be some sort of shenanigans going on here, and we're going to be down that rabbit hole forever. You can release all of the documents right now unredacted, and it won't help us get out of that rabbit hole.
True. That's and there's nothing we can do about that. The
Right.
populace has become such a dichotomy of itself that the two sides really can't even have a conversation without having to translate between one another. Right.
Oh, you're
I've
exactly right. There is not even agreement on a baseline level of reality from which a meaningful rhetorical exchange can happen. That's the
right.
place where we've gotten to now, and it's really incredibly dangerous when you get right down to it.
Well, it is because it allows the unpersoning of the other to such an extent as to allow violence to take place and it be overlooked by the populace in general. Oh,
Exactly.
well, they're a liberal, they're a Democrat, they're a
Yep.
Republican.
Yep.
He's a racist. We other the people, and this is the danger. This is the danger of manipulated politics. And I know politics are always manipulated, but the
Yes.
modern sense of it is significant.
And specifically the weaponizing of language, which which
Weaponization of language, yes.
which we've seen just explode to an extent that nobody ever could have even envisaged not too long ago. But
It's, you're
that is what it is all about. It is about enabling the unpersoning of your interlocutor,
of a
because
group.
if you I, my side has made the judgment that you're only allowed to use this word and these words and these phrases when you're talking about this thing. So if you don't use those words and phrases when you're talking about that thing, if you just talk about it the way people always used to talk about it, then you are otherized, you are dehumanized, and you have to be destroyed. Not only can we not have a conversation with you, but you probably need to be forcibly made to shuffle off the mortal coil because you are that dangerous, because you will not accept the strictures upon speech and semantics and word usage that our side has sought so very hard to impose.
Did you see the interview between the lady journalist and the quote unquote conservative couple where
Oh
she
yes,
makes a
I saw
statement?
that. I saw that just this morning. Wasn't that fascinating? That was great.
Bro, that is a case study in cult mentality. The way she kept repeating, there is no scientific evidence, and what she is saying I'll clear up afterwards. But she kept saying the words and she would read it from the card. There is no scientific evidence to support the difference in genetic difference in racial structures, right?
Was it
And
Sargon's video that you watched? Because that was the one I watched.
I watched a couple. I watched that one. I think the actual Justice Warrior did a breakdown on it,
Oh,
and
did he?
Liberal
Yeah, I
House.
watched. The only one I watched was Sargon, and it was,
It was very
man,
good. He is
what a
exactly right.
what a case study. Just an absolute
Exactly.
textbook case study in
He he equated it to casting a spell, and I think that's a very good analogy. But in reality, it is the chanting of a cult acolyte. There's no
yeah,
actual magic involved. It is just the denial of anything not a part of this chant.
and it's the repetition of a religious mantra. And people often used to yell at me back when I first made that connection between that these people sound like religious fanatics. People on the supposedly irreligious left today, they sound exactly the same way to my ears that crazy street preachers wearing sandwich boards saying "Repent, the end is nigh" used to sound when I was a little kid. and I can't distinguish the one from the other because they sound exactly the same in terms of the level of certitude and the level of craziness and the unwillingness to even contemplate thinking outside of the self-imposed box that one has created inside of one's own intellect. And fewer people disagree with me now than did before. I think a lot of people have actually come around to that realization that it really is a religious cult, like in every practical way that actually matters.
I had a conversation it's been 4 or 5 years ago with a blue dog, hardcore block state Democrat, moved to a blue state to be more blue, right?
Hmm.
And he looked at me and he goes, "You're probably not going to agree with this." And I'm like, "Probably not." He's like, "But I think we need to do something about the First Amendment." And we're there. This is a family gathering. We're doing the whole thing. And there's kids running around with toys. And one of the little girls ran by me and threw a little doll at me, a little stuffy doll, like a Raggedy Ann type thing. And she tossed it at me. I was sitting there looking at it. He goes, "The things they're saying about Alexandria Cortez and the things that's going on, the rhetoric that's coming out of the right. I really think we need to do something about the First Amendment. It needs to be, I don't know, changed." And I said, "I'll make you a deal, brother. And this is the hill I'm willing to die on." I handed him the doll and he took it and looked at it. And I said, "If you can show me on that doll where the bad words hurt you, I will discuss changing the First Amendment. We'll talk about it. I'm not committing to changing it. I'm saying I will talk about it." And he sat there. He did not say it's been 5 years. He's never brought that up or anything else about the amendments.
Well, and it's an outstanding point that you bring up because we hear those kind of justifications more and more from people on the left that not only do we have to change policy in order to avoid other people feeling unwanted feelings, but we actually have to, like you said, we have to change our free speech laws so that you can't say words that upset a person that I don't think you should upset. And my God, that's a road of crazy that is Crazy Town Avenue meets batshit lane right there. That anybody would even contemplate a policy shift like that just because they don't like the things that are being said about one elected official. And I got a newsflash for you. If you don't want to be harshly, heavily, regularly scrutinized and criticized, don't freaking run for Congress.
Right? Once you become a public figure, you kind of put all that in the rearview mirror. My advice is whether you're going into politics, YouTube, or entertainment, make sure your past is clean before you jump in with both feet, because it really sucks when you get something rolling in your direction and they find out that you've got 17 children that you haven't been taken care of, and there's a whole slew of charges following you around and you're wanted in 15 states. That shit sucks, dude. I don't want
yeah, and it's just the fact of the matter is there are certain professional vineyards in which you are not going to be able to toil for a living if you are unable to let things roll off your back. And YouTube is one of them. Politics is another one of them. And if you're going to spend your existence toiling in one of those professional vineyards and getting your feelings hurt by every little bit of criticism and critique that comes your way, you are setting yourself up for a really hellaciously miserable rest of your life. You should do something that's more atomized and more personal and doesn't involve putting yourself out there for public consumption, because that's really not the area in which you need to be directing your energies if you can't handle any of the basic back and forth that is permitted under the beautiful, beautiful First Amendment.
And there's another layer of it too. When you tell people that it's okay to be offended, that offense is expected and should be reprimanded or punished, the causing of offense, the person that causes the offense is not really responsible for the offense. It's the offended person. And even if 100 people agree that something was said was offensive, it does not change the free speech laws around you, right?
I've said those words to my kids probably more than I have said any other words. Being offended is a choice that you make. Nobody can make you be offended. You do that.
Let's bring it further down to earth. Thank you, my love. Um, when you're a YouTuber, right? You're just some random YouTuber. You wake up, you do a video every day, you upload it, and people don't like parts of it. You have a choice to make. You can decide to be literally driven by the criticizers and criticisms and eventually decide that anyone who disagrees with you is a troll and is a paid activist sent here specifically to unravel your channel, which to me sounds very much like paranoid delusion with delusions of grandeur. Or you can say, okay, well, some people are just stupid and hateful, and roll with it. Just let it happen and incorporate it into your lore as a part of your personal canon, right? Like Joe Rogan. I've got this one dude everywhere I go. His profile is Joe Rogan. He has Joe Rogan's picture, and in my heart, I truly hope he really is Joe Rogan. Even though it would break my heart if I found out Joe Rogan hated me, but this guy has such pure vitriolic hate everywhere I go to anyone who will listen that it actually kind of touches my heart, because hate is not the opposite of love. The opposite of love is indifference.
Well, yeah, and there is also a third way that you can respond to the kind of criticisms you were just talking about. And you have the option of, you can overreact to it, internalize it, freak out about it, let it ruin your day, ignore it entirely, or you can take just a brief moment to be self-reflective and say, does this person have a point? Are they making a valid criticism that I should take to heart? Or am I just dismissing it out of hand because I don't want it to hurt my feelings? And,
I have an example in chat currently. While you were doing your intro thing, a dude popped up in my chat. He come in, it was tuna ounces or something like that. And he pops in and was like, God, this is torture. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Go get a job, MF. Right? My response, nah, too much like work. What are you talking about, man? Damn. New Year's and the worst people. Top 100. So this is the meth addicted clubs. Nah, I quit. Cap never did it.
There you go.
It's torture, but we like you here.
Oh, that reminds me. That reminds me of.
Hold on 1 second. You can be driven by these people, or you can take control of the conversation and ride them like a fucking pony.
Yes, and it's so easy to do. It's I would say it's like taking candy from a baby, but that would be kind of an insult to babies and to candy, frankly.
Yeah.
But I recall that reminds me of last week. There was some idiot that popped up in the chat. I don't even remember what the name was, but like they just materialize out of the ether and immediately demand to have the entire program explained to them. Like, stop and tell me exactly what you're talking about right now, because no unwarranted delusions of grandeur there, not at all. God damn, like, maybe hang out for a couple minutes, try to absorb, infer things through the contextual clues that you're being given. No, God damn it, you have to stop what you're doing right now and explain everything that's happening to me personally, because I am just that goddamn important. And
the one that gets me are the people who come on panel and haven't heard a single word. They just popped in, saw the link, clicked the link, and pop up on panel, and they're like, well, what are we talking about? Like, dude, we've been talking for 5.5 fucking hours. You want to know specifically what the topic is currently? It happens to be, yes, whatever the fucking topic is. But
yeah, I want you to hold my hand and walk me through exactly stop everything you are doing so that you can hold my hand and walk me through this, because I am that all fired important. Yeah,
right?
that's
Uh,
that is
that's
that
like
is.
I said,
I'm not.
right before I went live, I told you, like, we're counting down. We got 15 seconds left, and I'm like, oh my god, this is where the imposter syndrome kicks in. Like, why am I doing this? Who
Yep.
cares? Why are we? What's the point? And I just want to shut everything down and go have me a fucking milkshake or a smoothie or something.
Mm.
But at the same time, I love this shit. So we got to do it.
Oh, I know. And the stupid people who show up in chat and act like that, they are part of the love. They are part of this whole grotesquely beautiful ecosystem that we have chosen to live in, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Damn right. I love each and every one of you like a brother and a sister, but I do not. I absolutely reserve my right to burn you down with a roast if you get out of line, bro. That is my right as a creator. And if I happen to be a better
Yes.
creator than you, so be it.
Yes, and there's a lot of people who fail the most basic understanding test of free speech, and that is the fact that free speech is a two-way street. It doesn't only travel in the direction that you want it to travel in. It doesn't stop traveling when you get your precious little feelings hurt. It is co-equal. It runs both ways, and that's the way our founders designed it, and they designed it that way for a good reason, because that is the way that human discourse must be in order to be valid and productive and useful.
Exactly. And furthermore, if you're willing to take offense to something someone online says, you're already ill suited for this genre. Go write a book, go write a newspaper article. That is your field. You shouldn't be here doing live stream type stuff. Go do a video where nobody can tell you anything until you're done. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, do something where you can be in your own headspace and not broadcast things out to the world unless you are until you are darn good and ready to do it. And you probably still won't handle the criticism all that well, but that is not the world's problem. That is your sometimes if you are going to attempt to make your living or some portion of your living in some field of creative endeavor, there is going to come a time when you have to submit your work to someone else who evaluates it according to its objective quality. And if you can't handle the things that a person in that station might potentially say, then you need to rethink your life choices and the kind of trade and business and profession that you want to be in, because maybe you should just be working at Dairy Queen. You know, maybe you can handle that a lot easier.
I'm not even going to be that adverse to it. It's just that not everyone is capable of operating in a live stream environment. If you have difficulty holding your tongue, if you have a difficulty not responding, if you have a difficulty not being hateful and knee jerkish, maybe this isn't for you. I'm just saying.
Well,
It,
and also if you have difficulty listening comprehensively to
I, I
what the
could
person or
bypass that.
people you're talking to are saying. And me personally, I wish I did a better job of paying attention to what people are typing in the chat. But when I'm paying attention to what people are typing in the chat, I am not listening attentively to what my co-host is saying. And I want to listen attentively to what my co-host is saying so that I can respond in a way that is meaningful and makes sense, because this is a conversation. I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm going to respond to what you're saying. I'm not just sitting here with some preconceived line in my head, some big zinger line that I'm just going to vomit out as soon as there's a bit of dead air, no matter what the thing is that you just said. And that's the thing that makes the panel verse often so completely intolerable for me, is that it's just people saving up lines and
Th-
zingers and looking for a chance to vomit them out
I
instead of
see
actually having a conversation with the other people on the screen.
a lot of the panel verse specifically comes to the table with a narrative in mind and an idea to push. They're ideologists. In fact, a lot of them are very similar to revival preachers. If you've ever been to a church revival, the preachers they bring in as guest speakers, they roll in and with far more exuberance than the situation should present, right? They
Yep.
they show up as the brand new idea, the hip cutting edge concept. And a lot of these people coming to the panelverse are trying to come in and make a splash by saying something that's either controversial or something that's mainline in a place that it's not accepted, you know?
Yeah, one often gets the impression that they have come into the discussion with a notepad of what they think are a list of 5 or 10 really great zingers, and they are not listening attentively and comprehensively to the discussion that's going on. They're just waiting for a little bit of dead air so that they can get one of their zingers in and hopefully make a big splash, and because they want to have a mic drop moment and a rim shot or whatever. But they are looking to get themselves over personally and not to
Mhm.
participate in a meaningful act of human discourse.
Facts. Absolutely. Everybody hit the like button, folks. Like, comment, and share. Do the whole thing for the YouTubery. Um, one of the primary issues with trying to get ahead in the live stream space, like specifically me, I didn't start YouTube to do live streaming. A lot of people did. I didn't do that. I started to do videos and to try to do like some stream of consciousness things, and I got a bad mic and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I ended up finding out that the mic would work in StreamYard. And I found that out in the process of setting up all my sound system and everything through OBS and working with the consultant I was working with at the time to do this. And by discovering that it would work in StreamYard, I found out I could get some of my footage from StreamYard. It would work in my editor, and everything was copacetic for about 3 weeks. And then StreamYard changed. It didn't work with the editor no more, and everything went to shit. And I ended up being on a panel with some people. In the following week, I had a couple of hundred emails asking me to join this panel, that panel, some more panels over here to come talk to these people, those people. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've had it happen at least once where a
Yeah.
group discovers you, right?
Hmm.
The difference between me and them is I grew up with a very hateful older brother who said all the horrible things you could possibly imagine, and they can't hurt my feelings. And apparently, that's almost a superpower in the panelverse, the ability to take somebody who is literally spewing vitriol into your face, not only make light of it, but make it funny and entertaining.
Yes, because the absolute worst way you can handle a person like that is to respond in kind, because that just legitimizes the stupid, idiotic, childish thing that they are doing. And you don't want to do that. It's like you were just talking about before. When you maintain your baseline level of rationality and intellect while the other person is freaking out, who do you think looks like an idiot and who doesn't?
I often say you are more defined by the people who hate you, or more closely defined by the people who hate you than the people who like you. Because the people who hate you will say it with zero repercussions and zero misgivings. They'll say everything they think about you. And people can determine, it's a good litmus test to determine the quality of a person's character based on who hates them in an online space, right?
Absolute truth.
Because
I'm
some people
reminded. I'm
might not like you, but will pretend to like you. And other people who hate you are at least being honest.
I'm reminded of the famous Groucho Marx line. I would never want to be a member of a club. No, I would never want to be in a club that would have a person like me for a member.
Right? Right? Oh my God. Ooh, Groucho Marx. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Um, Great stuff. Not sure where to go from here.
Oh,
We've
we should
covered
give it.
quite
We
a bit.
should we should give a shout out to Brigitte Bardot.
Oh yeah, no, there she's in the ticker down here.
Is she? Yeah,
Yes.
there ain't any like her anymore.
They don't build them like that no more. You
Nope.
start
You
off
can
radical from the beginning now.
you can be a sex symbol without acting like a whore.
Right?
And you also have to know when to act your age, because I was reminded when I was, mentally comparing and contrasting someone like Brigitte Bardot with people from today, and I'm thinking of Jennifer Aniston, who's who's a couple of years older than me. She's well into her 50s, and she's still trying to play the sex kitten routine, and it's just embarrassing and ridiculous because women in their 50s can't be sex kittens
Hold
anymore.
on,
It's
Joe. I don't mean to be that guy, but and maybe it's just my personal crush on this woman, but the wall has been especially gentle to that woman. See, if
oh
she hit
yeah,
the wall, it didn't hit her hard.
I'm not saying she's not, still conventionally attractive. She very much is, but there's a certain line of self-respect, and the line of self-respect keeps creeping that way as your age keeps creeping up this way. And Brigitte Bardot was someone who understood that, I think, better than anyone else. She stops making movies when she's not even 40 years old, right?
Right?
Because when I her attitude being, when well, if I want to be a famous sex symbol forever, then I need to stop making movies before I've begun losing my looks. And
Yeah, I
so,
hate to do this, but another example of this that was performed flawlessly, this is very rarely perpetrated by people successfully to do the forever young in the eyes of the world while moving on with their life. But Sasha Grey did that very thing with her industry. She did that particular type of video for 2 years. She did anything that was brought to her for that 2 years, and then she moved on with the rest of her life using the royalties and money from the productions that she was in. This is a very similar type of thing. It's just much harder to pull off in the modern era.
oh, Selma Hayek. Thanks for bringing up Selma.
Yeah, okay, let me take a swing at that one. This is exactly my point. This is another chick who the wall was very gentle with.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
whatever else you want to say about her, this is another actress that's well outside of her strength genre, right? She should be
Right.
playing the doting matron at this point, not an action adventure star beating up 200-pound men.
But having said that, she probably does a better job acting her age than any of her contemporaries in the current generation have done,
Also true. She is
it's
classy.
just it has taken on such a degree of absurdity now when and it has to do not just with how you aesthetically, physically portray yourself. It has also to do with the way you speak. And it seems like women, even into their 50s and 60s now, are obsessed with trying to talk as though they are teenage girls. And I will never grow accustomed to that. I think it sounds so jarring and so ridiculous. And there is nothing wrong with acting the age you are. And the the oral presentation, AURAL, perverts, is just as important as the aesthetic presentation, I would submit. It has to do with the way
Sure.
you talk and with the way you portray yourself visually.
I think what you're looking for, the word you're seeking, is class.
Indeed.
There are very few classy chicks out there nowadays, and there's even fewer classy women, right? You're more likely to find a classy chick than you are to find a classy woman, in my opinion, because the classy women are all married. They're typically standing over there laughing at the stuff that people are doing and not really participating in the things that are embarrassing.
Yes, exactly. And the reason why we lament the passing of a woman like Brigitte Bardot is that she knew she was the world's foremost sex symbol, and she never wasn't classy. Not
Right?
even a little bit. And that line and that distinction, I think, has been completely lost, and we have suffered for it as a species.
As a culture, for sure. For sure.
Yes.
All right, it's about that time to do that thing that you do.
Did I do that thing? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the final 2025 edition of the Blast Radius. I hope that nearly half hour long top 100 list at the start of the show wasn't too much for you to imbibe. I actually kind of enjoyed doing it, and I'll tell you why I enjoyed doing it, because I did a top 100 list last week, and then I cut it up into 10 bite-sized short videos, and I got almost 10 freaking thousand views out of the short videos. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that same freaking thing again. So shoot me, I guess. But I still think it was kind of funny. And the point being, I can work on one project all week and get my normal number of views. So that's the kind of time I have to be available to work with now. And so I am operating within the exigencies that are available to me. We hope you had a fantastic, wonderful, lovely Christmas with the people you love and value and appreciate. We hope you have a fantastic new year. We will see you 7 days from now, which I guess is going to be the first week of, I don't know what the date's going to be, but it's going to be the first week of January. It's going to be a brand new year, and we're going to bring you the exact same show because we don't believe in New Year's resolutions around here. We believe in being the exact same couple of obnoxious bastards that we have always been. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, next Sunday. We will see you here. Take care. Get off, Mom.
This one's for you, buddy. Nice.